Hi guys, the Metal Maniac back again, and in this video I'm going to be listing off my top 5 favorite albums of 1980. So with that, let's begin. So number 5 is Lightning to the Nations by Diamond Head. Yeah, Diamond Head is one of those bands that started off really good, but then went downhill very quickly. This album's great. Their second album is pretty good. And then I think their first EP is actually pretty good as well. But everything after that ranges from just okay to absolutely boring and forgettable. They also changed their style too, from heavy metal to pretty much sometimes rock, sometimes not prog rock, but sometimes like a little bit experimental rock and some other stuff as well. They kind of have since kind of gone away from metal. Yeah, this is definitely their best album. And yeah, if it wasn't for this album, Metallica wouldn't have influence. It wouldn't have the same influences they had, and a bunch of other bands as well. Yeah, so this is a very important album, and it's a very great album as well. And you get probably one of the most iconic metal songs of all time, "Am I Evil?" Which is such a fantastic song. But then you get also some really other really great songs. The Prince, "Sucking My Love," "It's Electric," "Helpless." Just some really great songs, and probably their best vocalist they've ever had. What's his name again? I think it's Sean Harris, I think. Hold on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sean Harris. He has a very interesting voice. It's sort of like a mix of like, the typical type of vocals from like the late 70s, early 80s. I wouldn't say like Ozzy, but like that sort of like it is a mix of like the Ozzy style, like more monotone type vocals, along with a little bit of that more like gruff raspiness to it at times, with some a little bit of more higher, lighter notes as well in his vocals. So it's just a good mix of like a couple of different styles of vocals that were popular at the time. Yeah, overall, this is a fantastic album. And if you're looking for this, definitely get this. I'd say this is probably the definitive version. It has the classic original album cover with just the blank cover with the signatures of the band members. It also has this booklet that has a bunch of information on the recording of the album and a couple other singles as well. And it comes with a recreation of the 1981 Lightning to the Nations tour badge pass. And it also comes. I'm not gonna pull it out because there's two vinyl in here and it's gatefold. But there are two vinyl on here. And they come both on a semi-translucent, brightish blue. Also, there are a bunch of bonus tracks as well. You get the main album, and then you get some songs from two of their EPs and singles, I think. Alright. Number 4. Number 4 is the self-titled album by the band Angel Witch. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the majority of their output. I'd say probably anything past the Loser EP is pretty forgettable. But I'd say their early 70s, sorry, not early 70s, their late 70s demos, their singles from the early 80s, as well as that Loser EP and this album. All of that is very good. Yeah, this is probably out of all the new wave of British heavy metal albums, this is probably the underdog of the bunch. Angel Witch unfortunately got overshadowed by bigger bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Grim Reaper even. And even bands like Raven and stuff, which Grim Reaper and Raven were kind of not as well known as some other bands, like again Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, like that. But they were definitely they definitely did get enough traction. Whereas Angel Witch kind of was even under that. Like you could say that both Raven and Grim Reaper were kind of underrated and sort of overlooked, but even they got attention where this band for some reason got even more overlooked. But yeah, this album, even though it does have some flaws, like with the instrumental being cut from 5 minutes to 2 minutes, and the couple, like maybe like I'd say like maybe two songs being not really that good. Most of this album is fantastic. You get the probably one of my favorite new wave of British heavy metal songs with their title song "Angel Witch." Atlantis is another fantastic song. The White Witch, Confused, Gorgon, Sweet Danger, Free Man. I mean, this album is just full of fantastic songs. And yeah, just another fantastic album. And originally I was gonna put this down at number 5, but I've listened to this a bit more. Probably now 3 or 4 more times since I reviewed it. And yeah, I like it a little bit more than the first Diamond Head album. But yeah, awesome album. Number 3. Number 3 is British Steel by Judas Priest. This one I have sort of like a weird sort of like history with. Originally I didn't like it, but then I did, but then I didn't, but then I did. It's a weird cycle. Like, I don't ever, like, I originally didn't like it. I originally hated it. Maybe not hated it, but thought it was just okay. But then I loved it again. And then ever since, I don't, like, not like it or anything. But there'll be times where I think this album is just okay. And then there'll be times where I think this album is amazing. I don't know. I think this album changes depending on just sort of my mood at the time. Again, sometimes I like it. Sometimes I think it's just okay. But, yeah, I mean... this is still probably one up there, my third favorite album from 1980. It's just a very solid album. I mean, you get some of their absolute hits that they still play to this day. Breaking the Law, Metal Gods, Living After Midnight, You Don't Have to Be Able to Be Wise. Those songs are just so iconic to the point where they still play them in their live set to this day. And then you get some very underrated songs like Rapid Fire, Grinder, United, The Rage, and Steeler. Now, on one of their CD re-releases, they had a bonus track called Red, White, and Blue, which is super, super awesome. I love that song. It's probably the second most underrated song from this album besides, I'd say United. I really wish they would put that bonus track on the vinyl version because it's awesome, but for some reason Red, White, and Blue, you could only hear it on one of the CD versions. But yeah, this album is fantastic. If I'd have to pick my 3 favorite songs on here, I'd probably say Breaking the Law, United, and Living After Midnight. Yeah, sure, people might not like this because it's kind of not super commercial, but it is definitely a little bit more commercial than what most people are used to with Judas Priest. But I think this is a commercial album done right, in my opinion. And yeah, it's at my number 3 spot. Number 2. Number 2 is probably kind of going to surprise some people who aren't too familiar with, my opinion about this album, if you haven't seen the review. But my number 2 is I'm a Rebel by Accept. Yeah, this is actually my favorite Accept album, and it's just amazing. I do not get the hate for it. Like, here's the thing. The people who hate this album, actually, majority of them also praise the first album. So, but here's the thing. The first album and this album, even though they are technically different. This is a little bit more evolved into their more metal sound, even though it's still kind of experimental a little bit. It's not that different from their first album, but people praise their first album, people hate on this one. I don't understand why. It's a fantastic album. Pretty much, no, all the way through, actually. Now, originally I didn't like the song China Lady, but now I actually really like it. And now from stop to finish, it's just a fantastic album. And it has some very different style to it. Yeah, sure, it has Udo's, very, high-pitched shrieks, shrieky vocals, but you also get some different style of vocals than we'd hear on most other Accept albums. Which one is it? I think Peter Belts, the bass guitar player. Was it him or was it? I think it might have been. If I remember correctly, someone told me the different vocals on here. Not the main vocals, but the vocals that pop up once in a while on a couple of these songs was done by Peter Belts. I still can't pronounce his last name, but I think it's either him or one of the other guitarists. But he's not the other vocalist is not credited on here as doing the vocals, but it wasn't just Udo like you originally thought it was. Because on here you get there's two songs where it pops up. Save Us and The King. Save Us, there's the chorus where they're softer, more melodic type vocals. That's not Udo, that's one of the other band members. The King, it's entirely one of the other band members, and Udo doesn't sing on that one at all. I think No Time to Lose has backing vocals that I think is a combination of Udo himself and the other person who does vocals on the other stuff as well. But yeah, I love how the vocals aren't just like Udo's great and all, but I love how they have it slightly different on this album in particular, and where it has a really nice balance of Udo's style of vocals and the other style, which I can't remember exactly which band member it was. I have to look it up again. But yeah, I love that, and I also just love the different style of music on here. You get some really cool traditional heavy metal influences, but you also get stuff like some hard rock influences, some early rock / metal influences, and then you even get on the song "Save Us." You get some almost disco influences with the with that these two sections of the song that pop up first somewhere in the beginning and then near the end as well. But yeah, just a very cool, very experimental album for its time, and especially for this particular band. And yes, it's different, but I love that it's different. I love when they whenever this band sort of experiments. Even that one glam metal-esque album where they're experimenting with their sound again. I love the classic Accept sound and style, but I also love a lot of their albums where they experiment with their sound and style as well. And sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes it really, really, really works. And it really, really, really works with this album. And I absolutely love it. Alright, number one. Number one is, of course, Iron Maiden by Iron Maiden. My favorite album of 1980, and one of my favorite Iron Maiden albums of all time. It's actually my second favorite Iron Maiden album. This is my favorite one with Paul Di'Anno on vocals. Yes, sure, I love Killers, and I love Made in Japan and that stuff. But this album in particular, it's something else. It's on a whole other level. I mean, their other stuff with Paul Di'Anno is a bit more, especially like Killers, has a bit more a clean style of production. Now, yes, sir, it's still kind of raw and not. Most of it isn't like the Bruce Dickinson stuff where it's like super tight, super clean, and super pristine sounding. This one has sort of a grit to it. And it has a lot more sort of punk edge to it. They would mix a little bit more traditional heavy metal style, a bit more on Killers, and well, that's great. I love the way this album turned out. Now, of course, the band and Steve Harris himself as well didn't really like the way this album turned out, But I love it. And yeah, Paul Di'Anno apparently also prefers this album over Killers, mainly due to the production. And yeah, I'd have to agree with him. Like I said, the more raw production is just, it's something different that Iron Maiden just sort of never did again. But I think it works very well on here, and especially with the style of heavy metal they were doing at the time during the Di'Anno era. Um, it just works so well. I mean, and you get some absolutely classic songs. Um, Phantom of the Opera, Running Free, Iron Maiden, and you get a couple very underrated songs like Prowler, which they did play for a while. They did play this song live for a while, even in the early Bruce Dickinson stuff, but then they just sort of dropped it from their set list. They have in recent years brought it back again once in a while, but they still don't do it that much for some reason. What's another one? Remember Tomorrow is a fantastic song. Super super underrated, and I don't think this is a song they ever played without. I don't think they ever played it live after Paul Di'Anno left, which is a shame because it's just amazing. And I think this is one of the very few songs that he did covers on after he left Iron Maiden. And let's see, Transylvania is probably my absolute favorite Iron Maiden instrumental, even more so than Genghis Khan. Love that song, but that's not Phantom of the Opera. Transylvania is just so good. Charlotte the Harlot is another great song that they don't really play live anymore, unfortunately. And then oh, I almost forgot. Sanctuary isn't on this version. This is the re-release. This is a re-release of a remaster. The 2015 remaster was, I don't have that one. I think this is a re-release of that. But this one came out this year, I believe. Yeah, this is a re-release of that 2015 remaster. And it sounds great. I just wish Sanctuary was on here. Now, it's not one of my more favorite songs. I think it's a pretty decent song, but this does feel like it's missing a song because it is. But thankfully, I recently got an original pressing of the first album, and it does have Sanctuary on it. Now I haven't heard the an original pressing yet. It's going to be interesting comparing the production and sound quality with the two. Yeah. But anyway. Yeah, just a fantastic album. Paul Di'Anno is such an underrated vocalist. Like, even some Maiden fans kind of ignore this stuff and say, "Oh, Paul Di'Anno, he has no vocal range whatsoever, and oh, he can just do some rough and gruff vocals, and that's basically about it, and it's just so basic." And I have to call bullshit on that. I mean, do people really just not their brains can't compute that the songs Remember Tomorrow and Strange World exist? I mean, have they only heard songs like Prowler and Phantom of the Opera and stuff like that, or even some other songs on their second album that only have the rough and gruff style of vocals? Like, it seems like the people who complain that Paul Di'Anno doesn't have any range have only listened to maybe one or two Paul Di'Anno era songs and not basically gone into anything else, and not have checked out like some other songs, like I said, Strange World, Remember Tomorrow, and some other stuff as well that have have the more softer, more melodic vocals he does once in a while. Hell, I'd even say for people who still have that claim, go listen to the self-titled Di'Anno album. And just, it proves like he can do more than just the rough and gruff punk vocals. Yeah, just a fantastic, fantastic album, and I absolutely love it, and it's my number one absolute favorite album from 1980. Alright, so that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.